Welcome back to another episode of the Language Lounge. My name is Michelle Ola, and I have Liz Matchett here today to talk with me about something that I think is really, really important, both professionally and personally. At least I feel like it is. And that is that topic of mentorship, right? Both being a mentor and mentoring someone else in the profession. And so I'm really excited to talk to you, Liz, here today about that. And why don't you go ahead and just tell the Language Lounge listeners, look at that alliteration, language. I don't think I've called it that before. I like that. A little bit about yourself and your context and where you're coming from.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. Well, I live in California right now in Northern California near San Francisco, and I'm in the classroom still. I teach 3 sections, and they're different. I teach Heritage Level 1, I teach Regular Spanish 2, and I teach Civilization and Culture class, which is an advanced course for students with an intermediate, mid proficiency or above. So 3 different sections.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, but I love it. It keeps me
things
humble.
Interesting,
it keeps
right?
me humble and it keeps me real. So
Yes.
That's the thing, when I'm talking about stuff, I'm like, I'm actually doing that. And I also teach a curriculum and instruction course for the Stanford Teacher Education Program with a really awesome team, because we have a heritage focus for the students in addition to a regular Spanish class. So we have that dual focus for helping students. And I also am the executive director of the California Language Teachers Association. So it gives me this opportunity to really help the profession, our profession of language teaching, language education in all of its aspects.
I love that. That's a lot of really great and varied experiences to kind of bring to the table, which I love, both as learner and leader, right? And I think those are the best leaders, are the learners as well.
I like that you said that, because those two, we have a lot of L's today, don't we?
Right, we do. I sense a theme.
Right. But language and, your learners and leaders. And the thing is, they're the same. Learners and leaders should always be one and the same.
100%. I love that. So let's kind of hop in and just start talking about, let's first talk about why does everyone, and I mean everyone, need a mentor, no matter where you are in your career? What do you think are some of the benefits that you get from finding a mentor?
As educators, we talk all the time about trying to help students become lifelong learners, right? So it's something that we build into our mission statements. It's something our schools talk about. It's consistent at our school sites. And we need to be lifelong learners as well. So if you are also modeling what you're trying to help your students do, that means you're continually finding a way to grow. Finding a way to grow professionally, and I find, for me anyway, finding a way to grow as a human being. And as you grow as a human being, you find times, there are times in your life when you need help, when you need support, when you need advice, when you need a hug.
Yeah, all of those things.
All of those things, especially in what we've been through. Our profession is extremely demanding and it's draining. And so you have to give and you need to get, and you need to understand that it's like, I'm going to use a lot of metaphors today. I have a feeling.
Yeah, I love metaphors.
It's like the waves. It's like the ocean, and sometimes you're going out and sometimes you're coming in, and it's okay. And when you understand that, I think it's really helpful to know that wherever you are, it's okay. And to whether you need to give right now or whether you need to get right now, or a combination of both of those things, it's okay.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny. I was reading an article and it talked about, this was not like even education specific, for sure not world language or language specific, but it talked about 5 different types of mentors. And I thought it was really interesting. And I think, honestly, you ticked on almost all of them that were in there. So one of them they talked about was a master of the craft. Right. So those times in your life when you need that, you might have this new concept, new idea, something happening that you want to try, and you need that content kind of area person to help mentor you, kind of be your role model, bounce ideas off of. It also talked about a champion of your cause, somebody that just has your back, right? And that can, is on the same page with you. It talked about a co-pilot, just that peer-to-peer person that is, that teacher, your teacher work buddy, or, somebody that you're working closely with that, hold each other accountable, that sort of thing. One of them, the other one I really loved was the anchor. And that person doesn't have to be in your same field. Maybe it's better if they're not. Just that my husband thinks I can do anything. Like, he just thinks that I can literally stand up and just do anything. And he's my anchor that kind of balances me out and kind of keeps me, psychologically, mentoring me, I think. And then a reverse mentor, because again, you're always learning, and it's kind of that ebb and flow, right? And I think at different times of our lives and in different areas, we all need all of those things. Have you, either now or in different parts of in your past, kind of recognized any of those mentor kind of areas that you want to kind of talk about?
That's funny. I definitely feel like I've gone through all of those, and I continue to go through all of those, depending on what day it is, depending on what month it is. Um, I also have a husband. So it sounds like you're describing my husband. I just want to give a shout out to my husband, because when things are the worst, he's just right there. And when things are the best, he celebrates me.
That's awesome.
I don't know how I would ever be able to do all the things, plus raise the children that I raised. If my husband hadn't been supportive of me.
That's that. We got to give a call out to our anchors, right? In
our
our
anchors,
life, because they're so important. For sure.
One of the things I was thinking about as I listened to what you said, or what you were saying in the 5 different kinds of mentors, is that there are times in your life when things are churning, when things don't feel right, when you're not on your game, anyway, for me, when I know I'm just like, I feel like I'm just not as good as I purport to be, or as I want to be. And then that's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
Then there's a whole nother conversation. But when you're churning and things are just changing, so when things are changing, especially, it's very uncomfortable. And what I've begun to realize is actually that's a good sign. When you get uncomfortable, and you can not be comfortable being uncomfortable, but when you can realize, oh, I'm uncomfortable, why? And sort of analyze that and say, things are changing. That's discomfort, and that's okay, because things are going to be different now, and I'm going to have to do something differently. And it's probably going to make me better.
I love that.
And in that time of change, it's the time to say, I should reach out. I have these resources available to me. I have a professional network, or I have people who care about me, and it's time to reach out and say, hey, I have a question for you, or hey, I need your advice. That's a beautiful, beautiful way, to get people to support you, because a lot of people are afraid to give you advice because they don't want to be seen as someone telling you what to do,
Right.
But when you say, hey, could I get your advice? Yeah. Wow, that opens the world for other people to really listen, think, and also to build them up a little bit. Not that you intend to do that, but that's exactly what happens when you ask someone for advice. And then you get some help and support, and you go forward.
Yeah, and I think that kind of transitions nicely. And I think we'll talk more about some of those other mentor things too, but that transitions nicely to, it's not just finding a mentor, but it's also being one to somebody else, right? And what are the things that you get out of, like, personally, you can get things out of that as well, right? So what are some things that you think that mentors get out of this sort of relationship?
Mentors get as much as they give, in my experience. One of the things that I do whenever I work with people, I get the opportunity to work with lots of different people, educators. And one of the things I try to always say to them is, you know who I am now, and you have my contact information. And what that means, in my opinion, is forever, you can always contact me. And you can say, hey, Liz, this is happening for me. What do you think? What do you know about this? What can you do? In other words, I'm telling them I would like to be your mentor anytime you need it. And the reason I do that is because, I love people, and I love to stay in touch with people. I think the relationships that we have with people are the most important things that we have.
Hands
everything
down.
else and everything else in the end does not matter. It's the relationships that you have with relationships you have with your family. And for some of us, our family can't be the relationships we need. So we create a family. And the way you nurture relationships is to be present, is to offer yourself, and to be vulnerable, and to have problems sometimes, and work through that churn. Like I was talking about churning, you churn through it. So when people, I mean, I could tell you so many stories. One story is in the summer at a summer seminar I was at, I was working with people who were considering entering the profession to become teachers, but language teachers specifically. And our California World Language Project and the California Language Teachers Association, we have a really cool program we do in the summers to nurture undergraduates who are considering the teaching profession. So anyway, this person was mentoring me. Mentoring him. We were talking. She was interviewing me, and at the end of it, I said, "Hey, you're going to be going into your student teaching. Reach out if you need anything. Reach out." So I forgot about that, and then a whole year went by. And one day in September, end of September, I get an email, and she said, "Liz, I met you, and I'm struggling right now. Would you please call me?" She sent me her telephone number, and I called her. And she was actually, when she answered the phone, believe it or not, as soon as she heard my voice, she started crying. She's like, "Oh." And I said, "What's happening?"
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh my gosh, I was doing my student teaching, and I'm not getting the mentoring I need. My cooperating teacher isn't available to me. They're too busy. They don't have the time to meet with me." And I've been a cooperating teacher, and I know how that is. You get
Right.
so busy.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, that's hard because your cooperating teacher is busy trying to do their job, and they're probably overwhelmed as well. Do you have a university supervisor?" And she said, "Yeah, but I only see him every so often." I'm like, "Okay, but his job is to do this for you. Call him now. As soon as we get off this phone, I want you to call him and tell him you need a meeting with him." So like,
Yeah.
anyway, the point here was she was willing to call and cry. And the first thing I said, "Sweetheart, oh, okay, yeah, this is all
Yeah.
right. It's perfectly
Let's get
okay
you
to
the
be
help
where
you
you are,
need. And
but
that's
let's get you the
really
help you need." Hmm.
right. And a
And
mentor doesn't always answer all those questions. Sometimes you can just connect them with,
right,
somebody else that does. Right.
right.
And so it can be that connector piece, I think.
And when you're emotional like that, when you're
Yeah.
distraught, you can't think clearly. You can't see the steps you
Right.
need to take because your emotions are in your way. We get taught all the time in teacher school that if
Yeah.
a student is operating in what we might call snake brain, they can't do anything else.
Right.
Well, when we get that way too, we're human beings. When we get that way too, we need help. And so if you notice a colleague in that situation, then you have to kind of take the step and just say, "Oh," and so many of us, I do it. I see it all the time. Teachers are the most caring and nurturing people ever, ever and ever. Maybe
Yeah.
nurses. I mean, nurses too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. um, so two predominantly female professions. Again,
Yes.
another conversation.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
and when we get overwhelmed and when we get feeling like, "Oh, I have nothing left to give," that's when we need to be able to, "Hey, I need some
Yeah.
help," and reach out to somebody
Yeah.
so
And
they
then
can mentor.
and like you said before, as somebody, when I offer to help somebody, I really mean it. It's like, I'm not
Yeah.
just blank, I do want them to reach out if they need me. And I do think, that also gives me the opportunity to help somebody, because that makes me feel good, right? It makes me feel, have good kind of vibes when I get to be a part of somebody else's journey and their
Yeah.
growth as well, right?
Hmm.
And it also helps kind of some of those interpersonal skills, like I'm talking with somebody and I can kind of, I get things out of it as well as well as learning new things in the conversation, right? Because everybody has something to give, and something to learn. It helps me reflect a little bit. So I think, I also think, I think one of the things that we haven't talked about yet, and that is that we've really been talking about informal mentoring. I think
Hmm.
sometimes people get nervous about the M word, like mentoring,
Right.
because
Hmm.
they think it's going to be, there are formal mentoring circumstances, and those are wonderful to be a part of. ACTFL and NADSFL, and many of the language associations have, your school. And I think people get an idea that I don't have time to be a mentor, because that means I've got like a checklist of things that I'm going to
Right.
have to like do with them, right?
Hmm.
And when a lot of times that's not it, right? So I think we have kind of formal mentoring, but then we also have, informal sort of mentoring opportunities, and I think they're both very valuable depending on, kind of what you need and what you're looking for.
Right. In California, we have a requirement for beginning teachers to go through a formalized mentoring and coaching process in
Mm-hmm.
order to clear their credential. And I think that's really powerful. I don't think it's long enough. I think
Yeah.
in over our careers, we always need someone, which is something you have to learn to create. You have to create. We've been talking about that already.
Right.
But the formalized systems so often can end up being or feeling like
Right.
what you just said, a checklist or something, a hoop you have to jump through. And then you have to, oh my God, I have to meet with my mentor. And the
Right.
mentor is going, oh, I'm so busy because they're in that place in their career. Or they won't even, people like us won't even sign up to become mentors
Mm-hmm.
because we're so busy and we're afraid of the commitment to that. And in the end, it's worth it because you do get out of it at least as much as you put in.
Mm-hmm.
And skills, and you also just get your heart opened a little bit because you remember
Yeah.
how it was for you, or you see another place that you're going.
Yeah.
It's like a spiral, it's really like a spiral. And I think you and I talked about this before, but
Yeah.
in language teaching, we always talk about spiraling language. Well, mentoring
Yeah.
is like a spiral too. And you go around and come around in a circle, and it's not even up and down. It's more like a universal kind of thing of in and out and ebbing and waves. The thing is, I think you have to be willing to throw yourself in there and make yourself available, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might be like reading through an email and you'll see, oh, this mentoring opportunity is coming up. I recommend just following that link because sometimes it leads you to a place you never thought you were going to go to. Whether it's service, leadership is service, right? And mentoring
Mm-hmm.
is a form of leadership. And one of the things that I try to think of in my very best days when I'm acting as my best self, whatever situation I'm in, I try to say to myself, how can I act like a leader right now? I teach this in my leadership classes to people. It's where I start and where I end, because I promise you, and I can give a very recent example. Sitting in a meeting and you're kind of going, okay, why am I here? What is
I've
the
been to a
purpose of
few of
this?
those.
What is the purpose of this? And what I try to do is say, all right, regardless of whether I know what the purpose is, what can I do right now? What can my role be as a leader? And that's a form of mentorship because people are always watching you. You're on a
Yes.
faculty, and if you're new, they're watching you, and if you've been there for a while, they're looking at you saying, "Oh, what's she going to do?"
Mm-hmm.
And you have the opportunity to act like a leader in every situation that you're in. It's a choice. When you make the choice, you give into the universe. And I so strongly feel we're continually putting out things we're emanating things into the universe, and what we get back is partially determined by what we emanate out into the universe. Mentorship has
Yeah.
everything to do with that.
I love that. It's funny because what that touches on something I've always thought is that I've had mentors that never ever knew they were my mentor. Like I had these people that were role models that I modeled, that I looked at, that I wanted to emulate, and I didn't know them for a very long time. And when I did get to meet them and know them, it might have been more, personal, but that's okay. Like you said, there's people that you are modeling that, and people are watching. And I think that that's part of mentorship as well. I've the people that touch and affect your life and your practice, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of them out there, and reaching out and being vulnerable. And I think that maybe that's another conversation we can kind of have is like, how do you be vulnerable? And maybe you just do it, or do you, like, so if I'm out there, I'm a language teacher. And this is mentoring is not just for early career teachers. Like I
Oh
feel like
no.
everybody at all points, like I, needs some sort of mentoring in something, right? How do you kind of find a mentor? What are some suggestions? Like if you're out there and you're like, you know what, I need a master craft, I need somebody to help me with this particular thing, or I, looking for something. How do you suggest that people kind of find a mentor and maybe,
Mm-hmm.
broach this sort of, more formal maybe relationship of mentoring?
my first thought is always to go to the people in your immediate surroundings. So you're in your department, but a lot of people tell me consistently that they don't feel like they have anybody there in their, for whatever reason, in their departments. You know, you're doing
Mhm.
something a certain way and it doesn't resonate with the other people that you're working with. And so they feel like, I can't go to anybody here, which is unfortunate, but
Yeah.
there it is. That's
But
just
it's a
true for some
reality,
people.
right? So stay
Right.
close if you can, because that is going to the person that is going to be
Right.
available, right? And is going to be able to kind of
Right.
help that. But if you need to move out of that, yeah.
Yeah. And so the next level after that is find yourself a professional organization. And I didn't expect the
Yeah.
conversation to go this way, but actually you're asking me this question, and the truth
Yeah.
is where I found my mentors throughout this is the beginning of my 35th year as an educator.
Congratulations.
And
That's wonderful.
yeah, and I still love it. I really do. I still love my students. My goodness. Anyway, is my professional organizations. So the first professional organization that I found was what used to be called the Bay Area Foreign Language Project. It was located at Stanford, and I got a flyer in my mailbox at school that said, come to these things for language teachers. And I was the only language teacher at my school, and so I went. And I felt like I had died and gone to heaven. In the room were 80 people who all got it, who just
Yeah.
understood that language teachers have like one of the hardest jobs in the school because we do everything everyone else does in another language.
Right.
We're the Ginger Rogers. We dance
Preach.
backwards, right?
Yes.
Continually. Um, and I looked up at the people who were presenting it, and I thought, and they were language teachers, and I'm like, I want to know them. I didn't think at that time I wanted to be them. I just thought I wanted to know
Right.
them. And so I kept coming back and kept engaging and kept doing things. And uh, little by little, without me seeking it out, I ended up becoming the site director of that organization
Isn't that
over
funny?
like 10 years of time. Yeah.
You never know where life's going to
You
bring you
never
when you
know where your
open the
life is.
door, right? When you put something out
Mhm.
into the universe, you never know what's going to come back.
One of the people I met there, there are many people, but one of the people I met there has been a friend and mentor of mine for 30 years now. And yet, just yesterday, she's retired now, long retired, but just yesterday, I invited her as a guest speaker to my college class.
That's
We got
awesome.
to spend the afternoon together, and you can, when you know someone like that from a professional organization, that you've gone through your family changes together, and you've gone through all these amazing things, and also some not amazing things, some really hard things in your life, because you know as you get older, things happen to you, and it's those relationships. It's back to that. It's those relationships that sustain you through things. But we were just, we were reminiscing and noticing the blessing, and this is what it is: the blessing of the fact that she has mentored me at times, and I have mentored her at times. That it's not always a this kind of thing, up and
Right.
down, and it's not always a linear. It's just
Yeah.
things grow and change, and sometimes when things are really bad in your life, sometimes you withdraw for a while. You say, I don't want to do the things I'm doing for a while, and it might feel to you like it's
Mhm.
the end of everything. But another thing I have learned is it's not the end. Things are not the end. It might be the end for a minute, but things flow again. And if you have people in your life, if there's a network of people in your life that care about you professionally,
Mhm.
they'll reach out to you, they'll bring you back in, and things will continue to grow and unfold. You have to believe, no matter what, you have to believe that things will grow and unfold. It might be in a way that's much different than what you expect, but they will. And the first step that I've found is to give
Yeah.
at that point. When you're at your lowest, is to figure out a way to give. And if you can't figure out a way to give, then you have to ask. You have to ask, to reach out
Yeah.
and say it. And gosh, if someone reaches out to you and asks, call them back.
Yeah.
Call
Yes,
them back.
absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And so I think one of the other, so I think you hit a lot of what I think the really crux of the situation is that recognizing what you have to offer others is a great first step to start, because everybody has something to offer, right? I think about when I mentored brand new teachers, or even, alternative kind of certification teachers that came in with, they didn't necessarily come in with the pedagogy, but they came in with so many life experiences, or, different sort of experiences. And I learned something from somebody that was, just the very baby in their career, right?
Yes.
Or they might be coming in with the newest technology, the newest, kind of research and pedagogy. They might be coming in with things, and I might have been kind of like, yeah, I've been doing the same awesome thing for the last 20 years, but I could shake it up, right? So, kind of recognizing what you have to offer, even as a mentee, even as somebody that's still asking for help, or, doing that as well. And kind of just seeing that relationship between the two, that it's not, I'm an expert and therefore I'm a mentor, and you are brand new and therefore you are a mentee. It is not about that, right? It's
No,
the
not
other
at all.
things. And I think sometimes we don't know what we want specifically either. I might just be like, I just need something new to shake things up, right? And finding somebody to, be that, have that kind of reciprocal mentoring, or that peer mentoring or something. And then just asking each other questions like, what is your challenge right now? It doesn't have to be totally like, I want to learn about X, Y, or Z, right? It can just be pushing you to the next level, whatever that might be. And you might not know what that is yet.
Right.
And I,
being open.
Right. Just being open, or to that. So have you done more formal mentoring situations?
Yes.
And so tell me a little bit about, let's say I want to kind of, mentor somebody, and or somebody comes to me and wants to mentor, and I might be sitting there saying, yeah, but what do I do? Like, what do I say? Right. What are some like either questioning or openers, or some things that you would kind of do as a mentor, kind of working with somebody?
All right. This is something I had to learn the hard way. Okay. So someone comes in who's whatever reason, your mentee, you're working, because, we're always working. We're sending emails, we're doing whatever. Your hands are on your computer right here. What you do is you look at them, take your hands off your computer and put them in your lap.
Yeah.
You look and you smile and you say, it's so great to see you. What do you need? What can I do to help you? And you need to give them your attention. You have to stop working, no matter what it is. Put it away for a second. Put your hands on your lap. That's the biggest thing. Put your hands on your lap and look at them. And take a breath. Smile. Hey, so great to see you. And then listen. And just listen. And just listen some more. And you don't have to solve the problem for the person. So often the person already knows. They just don't know that they know. And all you have to do is listen and be present for them. It's actually so easy once you learn that. And as just tell me, and you can say, tell me more about that.
Yes.
Or, oh my God, and genuinely, oh my gosh, that's really rough. You're going through that, what would you like to do? What do you think you could do? And keep asking them questions. And they'll, so often, 90% of the time, they'll come to it themselves. And sometimes what they want might not be possible, and you can see that already. But don't discount it, because sometimes people find a way to make the impossible possible, just because somebody listened to them, or a leader said, or a mentor said, what can I do to support you?
Yeah.
What is it that you need from me? That's another question I'll say. What is it that you need from me to get to where you want to go? And you're not, in so many ways, you're actually not offering to do anything for them. You're just asking what they think. And then they end up doing it for themselves. But you are the person that's given them the space to breathe for a second and see what's already in front of them.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you can remove barriers for them.
Right. And if you can, by all means, that's great. It's a great role of a mentor and I think we haven't really talked about that yet, but really sharing, it's not about, as a mentor, it's not about me. It's about the person that I'm helping in that respect, right?
Listening.
However, at times there are things that I have learned or have done that can help that person get through a little spot, right? A little bit of knowledge. And so being able to know when you can give something and when they need to kind of figure out themselves, right?
Themselves, right.
I think it's both of those things.
Well, first you have to genuinely share too, and genuinely share of yourself, and genuinely share of your lessons, genuinely share of your expertise, genuinely share of your time. It's I give away lessons to people all the time. I don't sell my lessons. If people need something from me and I've created it, I put it out there. It's like, here, great. You're going to take it and make it your own, and you're going to make it better. I ask that you give me credit, but other than that,
Right.
I just want everything that we do is for the students, for the kids, because we're trying to create a better world. I mean, it's real simple when you stand back for a second and think, why am I a teacher? I care about the world. There you go. And once you get to that, everything, your generosity just should well forth. This isn't to say that, we shouldn't be remunerated well for what we do. That's not what I'm saying.
Again,
what I'm
that's
saying
another
is
podcast,
if I have
right?
yeah, that's another podcast. But what I'm saying is that the universe gives back to you 1,000-fold for everything that you give out into it. So giving of your time, giving of your lessons, giving whatever you can, giving a set of eyes. One year I had an impossible class, and not because the students were impossible, but because the situation was impossible, and I didn't know what to do. And I told my principal, if I were trying to get tenure this year, you wouldn't give it to me based on observing me teaching this class, because even though I've been a teacher for a long time, I do not have the expertise to be a good teacher right now. I need help. So I went to my principal immediately in this impossible situation. I went to the behaviorist of our district and said, I need the behaviorist to come and observe. So I was asking for help, and it was still not where I wanted it to be. So I reached out to a music colleague in my school, and I said, who's a peer, and I said, I need you to come observe my class because I don't know what to do. And he came and he watched me, and when it was over, he said, first of all, this is an impossible situation. You should not be in this situation, but you are. So a suggestion I have is to create he said, in my class, every day when they walk in, they know because it's a music class, they have to get out their instruments, they have to see up on the board what the music is, have it on their stand, and warm up. Like it's, that's obvious. What do you do? What do you do for that? And I had a warm up, but it wasn't working. He said, I think you need to revamp your warm up. Your warm up isn't working for this particular class, which is very kinesthetic. And it doesn't matter the details. The point here was a different set of eyes and his generosity. He gave me a whole period of his time to come and just look and listen and commiserate with me, and then say, and try this. And that was that little thing right there was the thing, because he was like, they're not starting off in the right way. And once they start off in the right way, it'll probably go better for you. And then it did.
Yeah. And you're right. That fresh set of eyes is so important, when
and
you're
out of your
in
discipline, you said that before, out of your discipline sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's great, because we do get stuck in a certain way things are supposed to look, or how things are supposed to go. So I love that. I love, so I taught middle school, and and secondary has been most of my experience, but I was
shout out to middle school teachers,
right? I love middle school. It's still my favorite zone. I know.
You can teach middle school. You can teach anything.
I agree. But I did have the chance to work with elementary world languages, and I was an administrator for that. And I learned so much. It's similar, but it's different. But that kind of talked about with routines and openers and things like that, and the things that we can learn even within our world languages sort of profession or sphere, but even just tweaking the language that you observe. Don't always observe Spanish teachers. If you teach Spanish, right, go and look at what the German and French and Chinese teachers are doing, right? Look at what they're doing in the elementary, or if you teach middle school, look and see what they're doing at the high school. And I think that those fresh eyes help as well, right? I mean, it's not just even, the different, different disciplines, but you can get that sort of perspective within our profession as well, I think, in different ways.
You touched on this in the beginning when we first started talking, and I want to get back to it. And the idea of you don't always know everything. And no matter how good you are, no matter how long you've been doing it, you don't always know everything. And you have to be humble. You have to be humble because the profession grows and changes. There are new ways to do things. You can be positive that what you are doing works. And it may be working for you in the situation that you're in, but could it work better? That's one thing. But a whole nother thing is when it's not working and you don't recognize that it's not working because you're not growing and changing. And it's frightening too. Like I get frightened sometimes, especially with some of the new technology. One day I walked into my room and my smartboard was gone and I had an Apple TV. Did the school tell us? No. Here we
Of
go.
course not.
Okay, so but
Let's go. Okay.
you learn, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can learn this. I need to learn how to freeze it,
Yeah.
which sounds ridiculous, but
again,
if you don't know, you
it's
don't
more
know.
stuff,
It's just a skill you don't have yet. And
right.
asking for help and learning how to do it. Even when you are a mentor though, who does know something, being humble is still important. And you also touched on this, Michelle, when you said you learn as much from your mentee as the mentee learns from you, because this fresh set of eyes, this fresh set of ideas, the things that they know that you just haven't been exposed to yet. And so it is an exchange, and everyone grows from the exchange, but remaining humble. Okay, and if you're a mentee, the other thing I want to throw out there is you got to be humble too a little bit. You in the sense of
yeah,
how you approach people. All of us have to be careful how we approach people and how we need to be genuine. We absolutely need to be genuine, and we need to be kind, because you don't know what people are walking through in any particular situation. You don't know what it took for them to get up that day and get to the situation that they are right there with you. And so I have a colleague who always tells me, you need to be kind no matter what, because you don't understand. And that has helped me many times.
Yeah.
Thank you,
and I do
Gabriella.
think, yeah. Oh, and I do think too, when we're speaking from that mentee part of asking for help, kind of what you touch on, being kind and understanding that you may go to somebody and ask them to be, maybe not ask to be your mentor, but to ask, in some respect, and they may have a hard time at that point being able to give you what you need. Right. And so being, understanding that, some people have a lot on their plate. And even though they look like they are the expert and they have all of this understanding and knowledge and wisdom and stuff, right, that they also have stuff going on. And so, how to approach that. I think it goes back to what you said about relationships. If somebody, establishing that relationship, understanding and being open, that if I say, I would love to help you, but I'm not able to meet with you like every week and give you extensive coaching, but I would be happy to email you, this sort of, my lesson plans for the week. Or I might, if you have a quick question, email me, but I might not be able to set up a 2-hour Zoom call. Right. And so kind of just being respectful of people's boundaries both ways, as a mentor
Yes,
and a
I
mentee,
agree.
right. For that relationship to work. Because again, it's not transactional as in I have something, you need it, you're going to get it. And then, it's a relationship that's reciprocal. Right. And so we have to make sure that we are respectful of how we approach people and how we ask people as well. To be part of
setting
that.
boundaries. What I heard you just describe was setting boundaries, and you have to be willing to set boundaries. And sometimes that's hard for educators to do, because we are continually giving, and we're sort of raised up to continually give, and to be made to feel guilty if you don't continually give. So remembering to set boundaries, and not in a, and this is the balance, right? You have to be careful not to become passive aggressive and not to become angry. But you have to be able to say, in order to be able to give, I have to take care of me first. If you don't take in, we've heard this message over and over and over again in the past year, but I'm going to say it again because we have to hear it again. If you don't take care of yourself first, you can't take care of anyone else. So sometimes you have to mentor yourself.
I like that.
Sometimes you have to take
Mentor
a minute.
Me.
Yeah, sometimes you have to take a minute and say, what would happen if I took care of me the way I take care of all the other people in my life?
Yeah.
What kind of miracles would start to unfold if I did that?
I really like what you just said there, because I think that's another benefit to mentors, and if whether you're mentoring yourself or somebody else, and that is that self-reflection piece, right? And I think that is really important to kind of stop for a second and reflect, and as you're helping someone else, you can also kind of help yourself a little bit. If you're telling somebody else you need to do X, Y, or Z, and you need to set boundaries and you need to kind of do that, make sure that you're also doing that self-reflection and saying, yeah, I probably could listen to my own advice a little bit as well.
Yeah.
That's
I'm very, very blessed and fortunate to have a group of women. None of them are world language teachers, but they're other educators. And we get together periodically, at least every couple months, but we try to do it at least once a month. And we spend an afternoon and we journal and we talk and we walk and we do yoga.
Lovely.
Sometimes we go away for the weekend together for these things. And it's an absolute renewal for all of us, because we mentor each other by listening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one of the boundaries we have is we listen, and we don't offer advice unless we're asked for advice. But we listen deeply to each other, and through our journaling, we often come to learn something about ourselves. And we do it because we know that we need that for ourselves, so that when we go back into our various situations, that we can be, all 5 of us are leaders, by the way, in different ways, but we can go back and give of ourselves to others and help ourselves. So we mentor each other by being present, genuinely present for each other. And I think that would be the most important advice that both of us could give to people who are interested in the mentor-mentee relationship, and that's to be genuinely present when you're there for another human being.
I love it. Well, that wraps up a lot right there. I think we're like, yeah, it's done. No, that was lovely. So anything else that you'd like to say? Because otherwise I feel like that is exactly where we are. I know it's funny because when way back, again, Greta Lungard was one of my mentors way before I ever knew her and met her personally. And Greta, when I was able to be part of a leadership thing with her, I just remember her saying, everyone should find a mentor and be a mentor. Like those are the two things. And so I often ask myself, like, who can I deliberately give something to and to kind of help, and what do I need, and who can I kind of bring into my life that can help me, get to where I really want to be and push me to be a better person, leader, teacher, et cetera. And so I just love that find a mentor, kind of be a mentor idea and it kind of, again, whether it's formally or it's informally, depending on kind of how you want to do it, I just would really, really encourage everyone to do that. So, Liz, do you have any other famous last words from Liz about kind of mentoring as we kind of wrap up?
As I was listening to you talk about Greta's also been important in my life, I want to say. It occurred to me that something I'd like to say that has worked for me very, very well in my times of need is ask the universe. Just put it out there and say, I'm struggling or suffering, or I need guidance. And I say, I'm putting it out to the universe. Universe, support me here and make me see when the opportunity is in front of me, because so often there are opportunities that we don't notice. So help me to notice opportunities, both to give and to receive. And I truly believe that when you ask the universe and make yourself open, then it will come to you.
I love that. That is fantastic. I think that's great. And so, I hope that this has been helpful to the people that are listening. I know I have really enjoyed talking with you, Liz, and we did not know each other before this. So it's just, I'm so lucky to add you to my network of people that I can tap into when I need something. So thank you for being there. Thank you for everything you've said.
Thank you, Michelle. And I feel the same way about you. I'm excited to have met you and this opportunity.
Even though we're on absolutely opposite coasts, hopefully eventually we'll meet someplace in the middle. And that's the great thing about mentors. We don't have to be in the same building with them or the same room. We can make connections and expand our network all the time. So thank you so much. And I look forward to talking with you again. Thank you so much, Liz.
You're welcome. And thank you.